So there are four different areas that I generally look at, evaluate, ask questions about when people are restarting. So the first one is sometimes your restart just needs more clarity. You just need to figure out where you are right now, where are you trying to be, how do you expect to use the languages? And I have some questions that I would recommend. I'm going to share those in a second. Sometimes your audit, you'll learn through your audit that you actually just need a better plan. The plan that you had for yourself before did not work. Like, you had the clarity, you knew what you were trying to achieve, but the plan you created sucked. The schedule did not work for you. The plan did not work for you. The routine was not doable. And that's okay. It wasn't a reflection on you. It just didn't work, and you need to do something different. So the next one is, so clarity. You might need just clarity because you don't actually know what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to do that. You might need a better plan, schedule, routine. The next one is you just need to focus on studying. Like, you know what you're trying to achieve. You had a really great plan. You just didn't stick to it. You didn't have enough accountability. You were really distracted. You struggled to stay focused. You forgot. One of my clients right now, we just had a conversation today in office hours, and as she's rebuilding habits in her language studies, she had really strong habits for a while, and then, life happened. And now she's like, I keep forgetting to study Finnish. She's like, I'm studying Swedish all the time. She has another new language she wants to learn, Somali. And she's like, but Finnish, never on the brain until class. And class is starting for her in a couple weeks. She's like, so I have to get this back on track. And so maybe you just forgot to study, and you have to think of, what are some ways that I can build this new habit? Can I attach it to something that I'm already doing? For example, I eat dinner at a certain time, so I can study before or after dinner. I always, watch this TV show at this time. So before that TV show or after. I generally say before, because you want to get the studying done before the fun stuff. That usually works better for me personally. And, the thing that my client is doing is she knows that she studies Swedish. That is a habit that she has consistent. And because of her new motivation with Somali, she's like, I know I'm going to study Somali because I'm very excited about it. And I have a really specific goal in mind of why I'm trying to learn it and what I want to do with it. So anytime she sits down and she's ready to study either of those languages, she has to ask herself, oh, wait, did I do Finnish yet? Did I study Finnish? Because I have to do that first. And that's the signal for her to build up that habit in studying this other language. And so those are some things that, like, I would talk about in coaching calls, and something that you can think through. So more clarity, a better plan, actually studying. Again, no shame, but you have to figure out a way to actually do the studying. And then the final thing is, maybe you had really great clarity. Maybe your plan was pretty solid. Maybe you were studying, but you didn't refine your process, meaning you continue to do the exact same thing for so long that you got bored, that it stopped working, that you stopped seeing progress. A lot of this is when we reach that like intermediate plateau, where essentially it's like you're at an intermediate level and you're studying, but you're like, I know all these things. I'm not really seeing any more progress. Like, am I learning? How can I tell if I'm learning? I'm trying to get to advanced level now. Why is it not working? That's usually that intermediate plateau. And it's because you haven't refined what you've been doing. You haven't shifted your strategies, made them more complex, made them a little more difficult, or, expanded on it. Or the biggest one, this is normally the biggest thing, you haven't started using the language. At an intermediate level, if you are still not using the language you're learning in some way, it doesn't have to be always having conversations with people. It doesn't have to be reading full length novels. But if you are not actively using the language in the intermediate stage, you are not going to see more progress. It's not going to happen, because you're going to continue to absorb information and put it in your brain and learn all these things. And then you're going to ask yourself, do I actually know it? You can recall it. You can recognize it, maybe flashcards, maybe when you're reading, but you're not actively using it in the ways that you want to use it. And so you can't see progress because you don't see the progress that you are expecting to see. And you have to redefine that. You have to refine your process. So those are the 4 areas. And now the questions. So these are literally the questions that I ask myself, that I ask my people. I think I even have this in some of my resources that I share. So First one is, what language are you restarting? Usually you'll already know this, but maybe you don't. Maybe you just have a bunch of languages you're looking at learning and you're like, should I learn one right now? Like, should I restart one? Should I restart a couple of them? Because I have a few languages that I dabbled in a few years ago. You have to make that decision. No one else can make that decision for you. I saw someone in a Facebook group who was asking, what language should I learn next? I don't know. I'm trying to decide between these two. Every single person is going to give you a very different answer. You're going to have a lot of people who say, oh, you should learn language A because that one's really great. And then some people are going to say, you should learn language B because I'm learning that language and I love it. Does not matter. It literally does not matter because they are not you. You have to make that decision. So what language are you restarting? Why are you restarting? There was a reason why you stopped. So why are you deciding to pick it up again? What is pulling you back in to saying, okay, I think I want to, relearn Spanish. That was my Spanish experience too, because I learned Spanish for 6 years in school, technically 7, 2 years in middle school. Well, I guess like 5, more like 5. Yeah, 2 years in middle school, 3 years in high school, and then like technically 1 year in elementary because my teacher just decided. So I learned it for essentially 2 years middle school, 3 years high school, so 5 years total. And then as soon as I finished Spanish class, I was like, I don't need Spanish. Delete. I forgot everything. I mean, not permanently. Like I said in the beginning of this live, you don't usually forget literally everything, but you don't remember a lot of the things. It's not like it was completely deleted. It's not, you need a refresher. I needed a huge refresher because I said to myself, I don't need it anymore. Make space for the other things. And then literally like a month later, I was like, man, I really wish I could speak Spanish. So I had to restart. And it was a lot of information that I had to redo. So I had to figure out, well, why do I want to restart? It's like, I actually want to talk with my friends who are native Spanish speakers or who speak Spanish fluently. I actually want to talk with people now. Like, I want to talk with my friends, which means that the things that you would talk about in your native language is what you want to talk about in this target language. I want to learn this language because I want to communicate with people at my job. So job specific vocabulary is what you want to focus on. Maybe you don't want to focus on speaking at all. You just want to learn the language because you want to read. You have lots of books that you're interested in reading, or you are just an avid reader and you're like, I just want to read books. That's it. So you're focused on reading skills and everything involves with reading comprehension, recognition of words, but not necessarily recall. Like, you don't need to recall anything in your mind, but you do need to understand what's going on. And that's where reading comprehension is really key. So knowing why is really important, or like how you expect to use it. And then I ask questions like, what have you already done to learn this language? What have you already tried? What worked really well? And it may be just like having a strict schedule, and time really worked for me, but having strict tasks did not. I like the flexibility of sitting down and being able to choose the resource in the moment, but I need to sit down at the same time every day. Or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe it's like, no, I want the flexibility of choosing the time during the day, whenever I feel like it. But no matter when I sit down, I really need to have the exact thing that I want to do prepared in advance. Like, these are some things you really need to evaluate, and then also asking yourself why. Like, why did it work or not work? Is it just like, oh, I get distracted really easily and, or I play a lot of video games and so I'm looking for that video game feel, the the excitement, the flashing lights, the fun. And so we're like, okay, well, how can we make this more fun? How can we make this process more fun for you? This is all important information. And these are the conversations that I have with people in coaching calls, whether it's one-on-one or in a group. And then the final thing that I tend to ask is like, what's your next milestone? You've talked about you've thought about your big picture vision for your language studies. And now it's, what is the next thing that you want to reach? What is your next goal, your next milestone? What are you hoping to achieve or reach next? I call these your tiny goals. And they're very specific and they have a really clear time constraint. So essentially it's like, no more than 2 to 4 weeks is that's how long it should take for you to achieve that tiny goal. Sometimes it's even just one single week. And so that's pretty much the process. Like I have a Notion template where I literally go through these things. I haven't shared it publicly yet, but I share this sometimes in my coaching calls when people need that audit. Either I'm like verbalizing all the pieces, or I literally just give them the Notion and I'm like, this is the process you need to go through. So if you are restarting a language and you're like, I do not know where to start, that's the process.